I'm like, no, it's a smart thing to walk away from a deal. It's a smart thing to say the words no. So you have to make sure you have a core purpose that is driven from the passion in your heart. Tough skin. You can destroy your trust in a fraction of a second.
This episode of the Global Business Line podcast is brought to you in association with Rich Webs, your one-stop solution for all IT needs.
Welcome to the Global Business Line Mentorship podcast with Sneha Gupta. Today we are diving into mastering entrepreneurship. We are thrilled to have JohnCMorley, an inspiring serial entrepreneur, podcast coach, and international speaker. Get ready for some powerful insights and practical advice. John, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. It's a privilege to be here with all of you wonderful people.
Thank you. So, John, can you share a bit about your entrepreneurship journey and what inspired you to, start?
Yeah, so when I started a while back, I never knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, let alone a serial entrepreneur. I think the only thing I knew was that I wanted to work for myself. And getting out of college, you start a business and everyone's just so concerned about keeping the lights on and doing the right things and being compliant so you don't get fines and stuff like that and getting the right insurance. And yes, everyone wants to make a profit, but you don't really know how to do your business. And I don't mean that you're not technically savvy. I mean, you don't have the skills to run a business. You're running it, but after you're in business about, let's say, 10 years, really only business one. Because all the time that you're in business, you're learning how to be in business. And so I can give you an example. When I started many, many years ago, the one company, now I'll be 31 years young. The second company is 16 years young. The keynote company is like 10 years young. And so when you start, everyone wants to take every job that's under the sun. I mean, it's natural. Like you want to just take everything. You don't want to give up anything. And that makes sense. But that's not the right thing to do. You want to actually pass on those opportunities that are not going to be profitable for you. Or are they going to be time wasters? Or are they going to be people that are not going to appreciate your value? And I've learned that as I've, done this many years, that it's okay to leave something on the table. It's okay to walk away from a deal. Now, 31 years ago, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to be crazy to walk away from something. Like, no, it's a smart thing to walk away from a deal. It's a smart thing to say the words no, N-O. Because when you say no to someone else, you're actually saying yes to yourself. It could be something like volunteering, and you're always trying to say yes to people. I know I did that. I never want to let people down, but I'm realizing that you can't do that because if you do that, you're going to burn yourself out. And so I gradually learned that when I started the one company and, you become an entrepreneur once you get passionate about what you're doing. When you forget about the money and you're concerned about, the passion. I always tell people I never work a day in my life. I get paid to help people, but I get paid to play. So what happened was about 15, 16 years ago, I had one of the largest marketing and advertising companies working for my firm. And they were horrible. I did not know how to fire them, which was a challenge. But I had to fire them because they were just taking my money and my father's money. We were going nowhere. And they kept telling me, well, you got to spend more money. You've got to, your business is very competitive. And I'm like, you guys really don't know what you're doing. No, we have expertise in this area. It's just that it's a very competitive field. So I bought that for a while. And then I realized they couldn't even do things like, I'm going to say, print their way through a paper bag. I mean, they literally like couldn't spell. They couldn't proof things. Pictures were wrong. But what got me was when I was meeting with them and they told me that your deadline, my deadline is actually today. But then a lady said to me, "Oh, no, no, our deadline's tomorrow." I said, "Well, you just told me my deadline's today." "That's right. Your deadline's today. Our deadline's tomorrow." "What do you mean your deadline?" "Well, we send it out." "Oh, you mean you don't print in house?" No, not really. We send it out to somewhere in Connecticut. I was like, "Do you think maybe you should have told me that in the beginning? Because you led me to believe that you do all this in house." "Yeah, well, if you want your deadline to be today, basically be tomorrow, then our deadline has to be the next day, and it'll be a $500 increase on the bill." I
So,
said, "That's crazy."
uh, so John, you talk about skills. So, what do you believe are the core skills that every entrepreneur should develop early on?
All right, so the one thing an entrepreneur has to develop is a passion. They have to have a very big why. If their why is not loud enough, nothing in life is going to motivate them. Absolutely nothing. So you have to make sure you have a core purpose that is driven from the passion in your heart. That's number one. Number two, you've got to be a person that's based on integrity. There are a lot of people I know that they get to the top, but then they quickly fall because they do the wrong things. They might get up there really quickly, and then suddenly, when things aren't working, well, they lie, they cheat, and they steal. And so that's not the appropriate way to be in business. And you might seem to get ahead for the short term, but your name will get out. And that's why salespeople get a bad reputation because they're just trying to take home tomorrow's paycheck. They're really not doing what's right for the client. I like to share something that came from an insurance company, and it's called the 3-win technique. So you have to win, the client has to win, and the company has to win. If all three don't win, well, then there's going to be a potential that you don't do business in the future. So if the company loses money, you're not going to want to do business. If the salesperson loses money, they're not going to want to do business. And if the client feels they're not getting a value, they're not going to want to do business with you anymore. So integrity is very important. Passion is very important. And I also believe discipline is very important. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. Maybe that's not going out on a Friday night. Maybe that's, working on your business. And I think a big challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs make this mistake, and that is they work more in their business than on their business. We all have to work in our business at some point in time, but you have to work more on it. Hire the people, whether you're bringing them inside your company or outsourcing them. You have to make sure that you hire the people that you need for what you need. For example, I hire an accountant, right? I know how to do accounting, but I don't want to tax my mind with that. No pun intended there. I want them to take care of all the state and the tax rules. I tell people the same thing when it comes to technology. Why don't you focus on getting a good night's sleep and we'll keep your technology up and running at your business? And I think it just makes sense, right? I mean, you don't go to, let's say, the barber because you're having an issue with your skin. They're not related. And so I think you have to be disciplined in the core. So now that you know you need discipline, you know that you need passion, you know that you need integrity, right? You've also got to have something else, tough skin.
Okay. So the main keys are discipline, hiring correct people, and working together. Correct?
Yes, yes. And the last one is to have tough skin because you're going to have a lot of people that are not going to support you when you get started.
Okay. Okay. So, John, I have seen couple of your videos, so you emphasize effective communication. So can you put some light? So how the entrepreneurs can communicate with clients and team?
So I think the most important thing in business is you tell a story. You get people curious about what it is you do. You don't sell. And I'm very particular in that. You don't sell. You educate people. But everyone coming out of school is so desperate to make money and they forget education. They just want to, tell people about this thing and they want to try to manipulate people into sales. That's going to turn into a bad deal for everyone in the future. So you want to communicate with people. There's a lot of ways you can do that. One is when you go to networking. So as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, you network, you meet with other people. I always see you're networking 24/7. I could be at church, I could be at a football game, and I always have my business cards, right? There's never a wrong time for a business card. Maybe not at a funeral, but I've even given a business card out at a funeral once. There was a person, oh, gee, I can use your services. I said, well, why don't we walk outside? I'll give you my card outside. I don't want to give it inside here. And so there is a diplomatic approach with connecting with people. So when you go to a networking event, the first thing people say to you is, hey, I'm such and such, here's my card. Okay, like I really care. I don't care who you are because I don't know anything about you. Or you get somebody, you're talking to someone like you, and then another person approaches me and says, hey, wait a minute, I'm in the middle of talking with someone. Yeah, that's okay. Just take my card and put it in your pocket. And so I turn to them and I say, look, I said, I'll be happy to take your card and put it in my pocket, but it's going to go in my left pocket. But if you wait, it'll go in my right pocket. Look, I don't care what pocket you put it in. I said, well, you actually should. Because when I get out of this event, all the cards that are in my left pocket, I'm going to take them out and I'm going to throw them in the trash receptacle on my way out. And they don't understand that because they believe that they're important first. And I get that everyone else is important. I get that. But you got to have some integrity and some respect. Also, you have to talk in terms of the other person's interests. Dale Carnegie said it very well. We have to strive to understand what somebody's name is. If you don't know somebody's name, ask them how to say their name. There's nothing wrong with that. People love to hear the sound of their name. That is very, very important. And so what I always say to people is, look, that's a beautiful name. I don't want to botch it up. Would you help me with the pronunciation? I usually say something like, well, just try it. I said, it might be wrong. That's okay. Just try it. And a lot of times they get it right. And they're very impressed that I want to say their name correctly. Something as simple as that. And so usually after I talk to them for a minute or two, it's never about me. It's always about them. I might say something like, hey, so Mike, what brought you to the event today? Oh, well, I was local. I was online searching. I saw this event yesterday. It's only 5 minutes from my office, so I thought I would pop in. Well, that's fantastic. Do you do a lot of networking? No, not really. I pop into events, or they might say something like, I look for events that are mostly free, or they might something like, I look for events where there's business owners. So I listen to what they're saying, because that will decide with me whether they're going to qualify going forward or whether I'm going to say, well, thanks. It was nice chatting with you. I've got to go talk with some other people. So if I like what I'm hearing, I'll stick around and say, well, that's very interesting, Mike. So you're in a very interesting location. I love that town. When I was younger, just making this up, I used to love to go there for their Philly cheesesteak sandwiches. Do you know, I'm just making this up. Reno's on the corner, which is probably not far from your house. Oh, I love Reno's. Really? Yeah, that's an amazing place. Then he might tell me some story about how he liked Philly cheesesteak. We never talk about business. I never ask him what he does. I might say something like, well, Mike, so we obviously like good food, and that's great. What do you like to do for fun? Oh, well, I like to golf. I like to go to movies. I like to read. Oh, that's amazing. You read any good books? So you just kind of talk about them, and you don't talk about yourself. And so as you're doing that more and more, you're probably dying to get into like, what do you do? Like, I don't go there. So, well, that's interesting. And now they tell you, this fact that they love to do that. And I might ask, gee, what college did you go to or something like that. I won't ask what they're doing yet. I said, that's amazing. And how long have you been networking? I might ask something like that, very general. And I never ask anything about what they do yet. What I generally will say is, well, gee, how do you like the pastrami here? I think it's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, it's really good. Well, listen, it was nice chatting with you. Well, John, what is it you do? So I don't give out what I do. I say, I help people for a living. But you know what? Why don't we catch up for maybe a bite for lunch next week? Can I give you my card? Great. Let's sit down and I want to meet some other people and we can talk about lunch. Now he's on the edge, wondering what I do because he doesn't know what I do. So for a whole week, he's dying to meet me because he doesn't know what I do. I give him my card. He might be able to figure it out from my card, but not really, because my card actually says something very unique, which I'll show you. My card doesn't say what I do. My card actually says John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. On the back, it says believemeachieve.com. That doesn't tell you what I do. This is my all card. It's not my individual business card. People can scan this and learn about me, but now I've got him curious about having lunch with me. When I go to have lunch with him, it's like, so he might say, John, so what type of work do you? Well, I help people. I help people before they get into big disasters. Really? What do you do? Oh, I've helped Wall Street. I've helped small businesses. I've helped large businesses. I fixed their technology right the first time, so they don't have to call us again. Oh, really? So you do IT? I said, we do much more than IT. We're a complete technology company. We do forensics. We do data recovery. We do data destruction. Really? And then when they start to pin me to price, I'm like, everyone always asks me for prices. And it's so hard. What I would love to do, Mike, is I would love to come out to your office maybe one day next week and just take a look and see what you have. And we could see if we're a fit. There's no sense talking price until we even know whether we can help you or not, right? I guess so.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing. Everybody's so quick getting out of school because they want to make the kill. They want to make the sale. But when you're about the relationship, people come back to you time and time again. And they don't come back to you for the $5 pieces of candy. They come back to you for the $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $250,000, $1 million more sales because they have trust in you. And I think that's something a lot of entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs don't realize is that you can destroy your trust in a fraction of a second. You could take days to build it. You could take months. You could take years. You could take a decade. And you could destroy it like that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people coming out of school don't recognize or understand that.
But sales is the backbone, right? So what is the alternative?
Well, it's relationships. So sales by most people that give salespeople a bad name are all about the dollar, are all about the sale, but they could care less about you. I'm going to give you an example. I won't mention the name of the company. A very large wireless company went into one of my clients and basically convinced them that they needed to upgrade their phone system. Now, we do all this, but they were in there and they decided they were going to do this and they messed them up so bad it took us quite a few days to fix it because all they were concerned about was the kill, was the sale. And when I called them back and I said, hey, we got a problem. Oh, I'm just a sales guy, buddy. I don't handle any of that. You're going to have to call support. I said, but you sold the account. Yeah, I don't get involved after the sale. See, that's the problem with too many people. They say they don't get involved after the sale. You got to be involved before the sale, during the sale, and after the sale. Even if that's not your forte, you got to make sure that you get the right people. Well, John, I don't handle that. Let me get in touch with Joe. I'm going to have him call you back. If he doesn't call you back tomorrow, please call me back, and I'll make sure he does, or I'll get someone else to get back in touch with you. Too many people are concerned about the face value, about what they're taking home in their pay. That's the problem. And so when we understand, what's that?
Sales is important, but relationship is also the main key, right?
Relationships is the core.
Oh,
If you don't have good relationships, you're
Yeah,
not going to go anywhere. Now you can get people to part with their money because of emotions. And media does it all the time. But what happens is once you do that the first time, you're like, well, wait a minute. I I'm not doing that again. You start realizing what it did and how they caused pain to you, emotional, maybe physical pain, because they made you feel for a story. Maybe it was a true story, but it was all about that pain. And there's only so many times you can push that pain button or push that, that button that says, hey, I need you, I need this, I need this, I need this. How many times can people ask for things for charity, right? There's a point where, like, enough is enough, right? Especially if it's the same person asking all the time. And so I think this is a big problem. Like, oh, you got to help me. My sales numbers are low this month. I really got to just get these two in, or I just got to get these 2 units sold because if I don't get these in, I'm going to miss my big bonus and I won't get my Christmas check. Well, how is that my fault? Like, that's not my problem. So I think that's what happens with a lot of the millennials coming out and the next generations coming out of college. They are on the premise that if they learn how to be creative and manipulative, that they can get what they want. And they're right, but then eventually that faucet runs dry. And it's like the person who cried wolf too many times. They cried wolf the first time, the wolf shows up. Second time he cries wolf, they all show up. The third time the real wolf shows up, they don't bother leaving their homes to help him.
So, what is your perspective? What is the common mistake new entrepreneurs make in their planning?
So the biggest one I told you was rushing for the kill, rushing for the sale. Trying to make that quota, being more concerned about the money that's going in my pocket than the solution I'm putting on the table.
Okay. And John, you talk about leadership, right? So, what do you think? Is there some lesser known leadership quality that contribute to success?
Yeah, so I've taken Dale Carnegie, I've taken many programs. So I think leadership is not about bullying. Leadership is about um, having people want to follow you. Now, I said want to follow you, not make them follow you. So I get people to follow me because they're curious about what I'm doing and they've seen the results on things I've done in the past. So people ask me, well, gee, can I work with you? Can I do this with you? Can I learn from you? Can I intern with you? And my first response is, okay, that sounds interesting. Why do you want internship? Oh, because I want to learn from you. So a lot of people want to learn from me, and I'm happy to help you. I only have a limited amount of time each day, so I'm really picky about the people I spend my time with. What is it that you hope to gain from me, and what will I gain from you? And so I have them do like a little job audition, and they have to actually do a little mini project for me. And I have to see that they are willing to put their best foot forward. Those are people that are not going to make excuses. I usually get 27 interns a year, which is a lot. And for me, it's about the fact that, you might want to go in this industry and you might not. So I'm either going to help you to A, decide this isn't for you, or B, it is for you. And I think the biggest thing as a leader is recognizing that not everyone is going to follow you, unfortunately. Okay. And not everyone is going to take the helm of leading. They're just not ready for that. So some people will walk side by side until they're ready to lead or follow. So I think as a leader, one of my key responsibilities is to motivate people to become better versions of themselves, which is actually my mantra for why I live every day, to become a better version of myself and help others become better versions of themselves. That's the key. And people say to me, John, why are you focused on yourself first? I said, well, the reason is if I don't help myself, I can never help you. So I have to become better before I can help you.
Okay. So, from your perspective, what is one common mistake new entrepreneurs make in their planning?
The big mistake that entrepreneurs make is that they do something that they don't want to do. They do something because of the family, because of their friends. I'll give you an example. Maybe you just graduated college and you have this degree, But suddenly, you're talking to a friend and you decide you want to go into restaurant management, but you know nothing about restaurant management. Your friends are in restaurant management, and it's so easy because they've been doing it their whole life. And you went to school for geology, and like, oh, you don't want to do geology, that's boring. But you can't let somebody else's talk change the way you're going to go after your goals. You can't. And
Okay.
so, too many people waste their entire life pursuing a dream that wasn't their own, that wasn't in their heart.
So this is a, very important thing for every entrepreneur. How do you recommend handling setbacks or failures, especially in the early stages of business?
Failure is not really failure. Uh, it's just a teaching tool. It's only a failure if you give up. So if you make a mistake, if you fail, you haven't really failed unless you've quit. So if you fail and you try again, you haven't failed. You've missed the mark, but you're just going around and trying to jump again or trying to make the goal again, right? So I think too many people hear the word failure and they feel that, oh, I'm done. No, failure is part of the game. Failure is part of the challenge. You know, life is a big game. You have to suit up every day. You've got to face different challenges. That's what sets people that start out and the people that grow. I mean, everyone says to me, oh, gee, I want this. I want the car. I want the house. I want the money. And those are nice to have. Don't get me wrong. But the real reason that people want these things is they want the freedom that goes with them. If they have lots of money, they can they can have other people work for them. They can take trips. Their business can run without them most of the time. So it's not what the people say they want, but it's the things they can get with it. Like I said, they don't necessarily they want the money, they want the freedom. And I think a lot of people today they look for shortcuts. They do gigs, which is fine. But I tell people that if you're working for a company, don't quit the company until you start to have something growing on your own. So if you work for a Fortune 500 company, it's like, oh, I want to quit that company and I don't know, I want to go into making rockets or I want to go into origami. Okay, we'll start your origami business on the side. And once it's taken off and you've got enough clients, then you could tell your company that you're leaving.
Okay. What advice would you give to those struggling to find their unique brand identity in a competitive market?
So that's a great question. I think the most important thing is to look at some of the trends, not mimic the trends, but reposition them in your own voice, in your own flavor. I think that's the most important thing. Um, when you do that, it's really key. For example, I was looking at some of our videos this morning, seeing which ones were getting over 1,000 views. And I was looking at certain attributes of the videos to see which ones were getting more views. And one important thing is people like others that not only have great information and have good views, they have music, but they also like people that are dynamic. Sometimes in a podcast like this, when we're not moving around every 5 seconds, that can bore people. So when you're doing a short clip, they want to see that I'm holding something. They want to see that I'm talking about something. I'm pointing to something. I'm saying to do this, or I'm taking something in my hand, or I'm stretching. Like, okay, so you do this, and if you do that, regardless of what it is, it doesn't matter. It catches such. Oh, I wonder what he's doing with that. Or okay, so if you look over here, I've got this in my hand. And I take that. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It's just you're like, what's he doing? And so, I think the biggest thing I can tell you is you have to keep reinventing yourself because it's about education. So I made a decision, oh, many years ago, probably over 7.5, almost 8 years this year, that I applied to be a member of the international press. I submitted my application. They reviewed my information. At first, they came back to me and said to me, unfortunately, at this time, we're unable to induct you. then I just figured that they weren't interested. Well, there was a lot more of the letter, but I didn't read the rest of the letter. At the bottom of the letter, it said, at this time. However, within 4 to 6 weeks, we'll be happy to induct you as we feel your content is exemplary and should be featured in our showcase. Now, I didn't catch that until a week later because I didn't know, because I saw the one word and I'm like, oh, they're not interested. And I put the paper and I'm like, let me go back to that paper. And so I say that to you because my voice is all about integrity. And so when I write, whether it's for papers, whether it's for online journals, etc., it's about the integrity that I bring to the table. I had a client one time say to me, John, Sally's makes great cupcakes. It's her boyfriend saying, oh, could you put down that they're the best? And I said, Brian, I can't do that. I said, well, why not? Oh, I get it. You want more money. No, Brian, you don't get it. It's not about money. How much more do you want? You want 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000? How much more do you want? I said, Brian, you're missing the point. Like, you can't pay me to write a story that isn't true. We don't have any proof that Sally makes the best cupcakes. I don't have any events she's been at. I've tasted them, but that's it. Like, there's no other study that's been done. Oh, so you're one of those crazy people. Well, no, I just write on integrity. I find the truthful story, I write about it. I listen to other people's stories, but I don't necessarily implement them if they're not true. And if I find that a story is not true, I will stop working on it and let the client know, hey, I want to keep working with you. Unfortunately, I found some loopholes in your story, or there's some untruths. We need to address these things if you want to continue with me. Otherwise, I'm going to refund you your money. It's like, oh, yeah, we just kind of embellish some of those points. You stretch the truth, like, way. Yeah, well, sometimes you have to do that in business. I said, well, I don't work like that. Perhaps you should go on Craigslist and maybe post a job for somebody for $25 or $50, and you'll get somebody out of college who doesn't really have integrity. For me, everything I write and everything I video has to be about integrity, has to be about the truth. And so, to me, being an entrepreneur is bringing the truth out to our world. And just like I shared in that example, another mistake that a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs make is that they are trying to bring the story out that they think the world needs to hear, but the story is not the truth. And so they're living a lie. And that's a big problem. So when it comes to social media, everybody I see online, they're all trying to sell things. Click here to buy this, click here to buy that. I don't sell one thing online in social media. Very rarely. I say, hey, click here for more information. I think the most I do in my social media videos is I said, hey, if you want to help me out, you want to buy my team and I a cup of coffee, a sandwich, or maybe an ice cream cone, click on the link and make a PayPal donation. We'll be so happy with those pennies and dollars you invest into us. We'll put that into new hardware, new technology, new equipment, new software, even new facilities to give you the most jaw-dropping, motivational content to empower you with truth throughout your life.
Okay.
And so,
John, basically, whatever you are saying is for, content creators or podcast.
no, it's not just them.
But now
Everyone has to do that. If you
people
have a
who are
business too.
having a product, right? The people who are having a product, so they have to sell in their videos, right?
No, they don't. They have to educate in their videos.
Okay.
I have clients of mine that are product sellers. We don't sell their product. We educate about features. We never ask anybody to buy their product.
Okay.
That's the mistake people make. We educate about everything. I don't care if you're selling a light bulb. I don't care if you're selling a new car. We don't sell anything. We talk about the benefits of how getting in a car like this would obviously make you feel great. I never ask you to buy the car. We talk about the experience you're going to have with your family when you pull in your driveway knowing that you have a car that not only looks great, or I say not that the vehicle not only looks great, but even complements your house. So nowhere in that dialogue did I say the word buy. It's implied. And so if you do an education about something, people get curious about it. Well, the new XYZ Porsche such and such has this feature and has this. And did you know that it has this automated life-saving feature? Yeah, I never knew that. I didn't say to buy the car. But now if you're looking at the Porsche, you might say, gee, I want to check that out. I didn't know they had that life-saving feature. Or, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is really cool because even if I can't make a phone call because there's no cell service, well, I have the ability with this phone to use a satellite and make emergency calls. That's cool, right? So that's the difference. It's not just content creators. Content creators get it because we're in this industry. But people that are not content creators don't want to do the work. They don't want to do what's needed. So they hire people like us. So we'll create the story. People that make a product don't have time to tell a story. They're so in a rush to get people to buy 1,000 units or 5,000 or 10,000 or a million units. They don't care about the client. They care about pushing boxes. And so, unfortunately, what a lot of them are going to learn is that their box sales will go up and then suddenly they will decrease. And they will stay low until they figure out what their story is, what makes them unique, what is their brand, why is their candy better than somebody else's candy. It's not because it's cheaper or it's more money. And I just feel that a lot of people are not going to get this. You could be talking about a medical service. You could be talking about entertainment services like a DJ. What we do is we get people to understand that everything that goes out, whether it's social media, whether it's a press release, it's a story where you're the star of it. And the star of telling what you do in a non-boastful way. It could be something how, recently you came up with an idea, and this idea actually helped feed 1 million people. That's a very useful story. And you want to do it in a non-braggadocious way. A lot of people that sell a product or service, they're not humble. They just want to get their name in the limelight. For me, it's not about the limelight. It's about trying to impress as many people to change their minds, to focus their attention on things that they want to be. The reason they're not getting what they want is they spend too much time focusing on all the things they don't want. And wherever we put our attention, that's where the energy is going to flow. It could be something as simple as a relationship. It could be something as simple as my business. And if you're always focused on the fact, oh my gosh, I always have these bills. I always can't pay these bills. So guess what's going to happen? More bills are going to come in that you can't pay.
Okay, John, as we wrap up, could you quickly share the 3 most essential insights or guiding principle for an entrepreneur?
Well, we've given a lot already, but I think the main thing that I will tell you for an entrepreneur is that he or she, as we said, needs to be passionate about the mission, about the problem they want to solve with the company or business they're starting. That's number one. Number two, they've got to do it with integrity. That means no shortcuts. They've got to do things 100% legitimate, 100% legal. And the last thing is you've got to have tough skin. And I leave you with this story, and this is a very interesting story. I was actually going into a very high elected official's office about 7 or 8 years ago. He asked to meet with me, and he didn't like me very much. So when he called my office for an appointment, I said to him, he called me on Monday. I said, well, I can get to you this Friday at 4 o'clock. Now, mind you, they go home at 4:30. Or I can get to you next week at Tuesday at 8 a.m. And they open at 8. So the lady says to me, oh, John, those aren't good times. I said, well, if they don't work for you, I said, and she's calling me in September. I said, I might not be able to get to you probably to the end of November. And she's like, oh. She says, we better grab you now. I said, whatever you want to do. So I go in and meet this person. And the first thing he says to me, he says, John, he says, by the way, your concept of getting people together and shopping local is amazing, and we're using it and you're not. And I was like, okay, fine. Then he says to me, John, when are you going to give up? I said, excuse me, sir. When are you going to give up? Like, when are you going to give up with the chamber, with this philanthropy? When are you just going to give up with this whole thing? Nobody needs all this. So I close my eyes in his chair. I sit back and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Sir, I don't want to lie to you. I want to give you the exact year, the exact month, the exact day, hour, minute, and second that I'm officially going to give up. Just give me a minute. I'm almost there. Sir, I'm going to give up." Yes. And he's like waiting. When a little baby boy or a little baby girl tells their parents they don't want to walk anymore. He's looking at me like this, like very like crazy for a while. I'm like, and I don't say anything. I let him talk first. He comes back. He said, "What?" I said, "Well, you have two kids, right?" And I ask you a question. He says, "Yeah." You have a guy that's just going in as a freshman, and you have a girl that's graduating this year as a senior, right? He says, "Yes." Okay. Let me ask you another question. Do they both walk on their own? He says, "Of course they walk." Okay, well, I'm glad. I'm happy. When did either of them, at any part of their life, tell you that they don't want to learn to walk anymore? He's giving me all these funny faces again, looking at the like, 5 minutes, he comes back and he goes, "Never." I said, "Sir, I always knew that you were a bright and intelligent man when I shook your hand 5, 6 years ago. And I knew that when I asked you that question today, that you would give me precisely the correct answer the first time. Never. And sir, that's officially when I'm going to give up. Never." So he looks at me. He says, "John, you're arrogant. Now get the blank, 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 blank out of my office." I said, "No, sir, I'll be happy to do that." I said, "But I want to let you know that I never needed you. I came here today with an olive branch offering, a peace offering, to see if we could work together. I'm tired of all the games we play, the placating we do, the nonsense you try to do with the police, trying to get me arrested, saying I'm doing something wrong when I'm not. And they know you're just playing games." I said, "Sooner or later, sir," I said, "you're going to get tired and you're going to step down. And that day, one of my friends is probably going to be the new XYZ. So I said, I'll leave your office now. I hope you have a great day, and I'll look forward to placating you more in public until you resign." Gives me a look. I walk out. Within 6 months, I get an email. "Dear community, we regret to inform you that at this time, it has." At first, he said, "It's been a wonderful X years, and I regret to inform you that I am officially stepping down and no longer rerunning for election. Although I've enjoyed my journey with everyone, it is time for me to step down from office. Sincerely yours, yada yada." And the next day, my friend was nominated to run for office. And the guy who didn't like me so much actually nominated him to run for office. That year, he got in. He is the new head of our community. So, reason I tell you that story is if you don't bring your A game to the table, someone else will. So, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean it's going to be an easy road. Doesn't mean there are not going to be things that you don't like. You're going to have to do the hard stuff. You're going to have to practice getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I didn't say in pain. I said uncomfortable. So you got to push your comfort zone just a little bit outside. And you got to keep stretching that. So that becomes the new comfortable level for you.
That's true. Okay. So, John, would you like to add something, adaptation of technology and AI?
So, what would you like to know about AI? Say that again.
Adaptation of technology and AI. How
So I
each...
have a whole thing on that. I'm actually going back for my next master's in AI. I just got a fellowship from a local college, and I'll be teaching underclassmen, and I'll be pursuing my master's in January. And so I'm just going to tell you, AI is not good.
Okay.
AI is not bad.
Okay.
It's a tool. It's how we choose to use it that makes it so. But the most important thing when we think about AI is we always have to remember to keep a human or two in the loop. AI is not a replacement for human knowledge. It can supplement it, but it should never be the final decision. It can make recommendations, but a human should make the ultimate choice as to which path we're taking. It has been an amazing privilege and pleasure to be with you today. And I invite all your viewers to visit all my great content at Believe, just like it says on my hat, believemeachieve.com. I have a podcast show every single day that has 175,000 people, Inspirations for Your Life. I have a tech show every Friday called JMore Tech Talk. I have short form content, long form content, static posts. There's so much stuff. If you're looking to improve your life and you get on my site, you're probably not going to ever go to bed. I mean, do go to bed, but there's so much. I think we have thousands of videos on there from short to long. And I provide you the nutrition you need to become the entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur that you want to be for your mind.
Really, your cap is very interesting.
Yep, so I made that. It says believemeachieve.com. It's just an LED hat that I made. And so it's very interesting. And the funny thing is, when I go out with it, whether I'm on an airplane or something, I will tell you, only 1 out of 100 people says something about the hat.
Yes.
They look, but no one else said. They kind of like, I had the stewardess on the plane, and she comes up to help me, and it's in the dark. She was like, "Oh, what's the matter?" She's like, No. Oh my gosh, your hat. I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "So does that mean I can get an extra snack?" She said, "What do you want?" I said, "I'll take a cookie and a piece of fruit." She's like so thrown off by the hat that so I think you've got to be different. You've got to be different, and you've got to make sure the message that you're sending out is one that is going to be of value. If you try to sell, people will shut you out, which is why I never sell. When somebody says to me, "John, are you selling anything?" I said, "Well, I'm not selling anything, but if you have a challenge or a problem, we can talk about it." And the person says to me, "You never pushed any product or service." I said, "I won't." I said, "I don't even know what your problem is, so I can't even recommend anything." "Oh, so many other people that have gone in before me had a whole menu of things they pushed." I said, "I don't need to push anything." I said, "If you have enough pain," I said, "you're going to ask me for a solution. If you don't want to solve it, that's okay too."
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you very much. It was a privilege and a pleasure to be with you and your wonderful audience today.
That brings us to the end of today's episode, Mastering Entrepreneurship. John, thank you so much for sharing your valuable advice and experiences. We are sure your insights will inspire our listeners on their own journeys. And to everyone tuning in, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe for more insights from leaders across the industry. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep chasing those dreams.